And I hope more kids will look at that and say, you know what, I can make a really good living being a plumber or an electrician or a carpenter or all the other things that we need so desperately in this country.
Yeah, I have a saying. I said the blue collar is going to be the new white collar. They're going to be the new wealthy. Okay. Welcome to Sharpen the Spear podcast, where we help manufacturing executives command the front and win the floor. I'm Richard Walsh, creator of the Sharpened Impact methodology, and I spent decades helping leaders transform frontline teams, unlock hidden profit, and capture capacity they didn't even know they had. If you want to see where your leadership gaps are costing you and how to fix them, head over to grittolead.com and run the free Sharpened Impact Simulator today. Let's sharpen your edge and get started. And we are back on STS, Sharpen the Spear podcast. Yes, with another incredible guest. I've got Mike Kron with us today. And Mike, no one knows but Mike better than Mike. So Mike, give us the backstory, bring us up to speed, and we're going to get into an excellent conversation.
Absolutely. And Richard, great to be with you today. Well, I can go back all the way to being born and raised in the Detroit, Michigan area. I was a big Detroit fan, big University of Michigan guy. Went to school there and quite honestly got started in the real estate business back in school. My dad and I bought a little 6-unit apartment building in Ann Arbor. I needed a place to live, so we thought that'd be better than renting. And I quickly learned how to be a maintenance guy, how to be a leasing agent, how to be a bookkeeper. All the fun things, and I was laughing. I was thinking about it this morning. I had a window guy come in to fix a broken window, and those were the old days, the double hung windows with the sashes. And I watched him, and I think he charged me all of $85, which was a huge amount of money back then. And I said, you know what? That was pretty easy. I can do this. The next one that broke, $15 in glass and a little glazing compound. And I was suddenly learning how to glaze windows. Through high school, I worked for my golf coach roofing. He was a roofer. So I got up on the roof and was swinging a hammer and doing shingles and, got started on the other side of the equation, but always knew I loved real estate. Had a good friend of mine in college, and he and I bought 3 buildings in Ypsilanti, the neighboring town to Ann Arbor, home of Eastern Michigan for those fans out there. And we renovated those buildings. He had a contractor's background, so I learned a lot from him. But, fast forward, once I got out to California, my dad and I kept buying real estate. I went practice law out in LA for 6 years as a real estate lawyer. Always great experience, but always knew I wanted to be on the other side of the table. And when the opportunity came to join a family office, my then wife's father, I jumped at it and got into the apartment business. And from there, I learned the difference between running small apartments and running large apartments, and running, a few units and running thousands of units. And we always used to joke, if you own a 6-unit building and a tenant owes you rent, you have a problem. If you own 6,000 units and a tenant owes you rent, they have a problem. And, we learned, you kind of learn the business quickly. We went from there and really just through happenstance had a parcel adjacent to a building that we owned. And we tried every which way to sell the parcel to developers, couldn't get anybody to buy it. And finally we said, well, why don't we just build more apartments here? The buildings that we have are doing really well. We don't know anything about developing apartments, but we certainly can learn. And we did. Probably the best decision I ever made was hiring a project manager to help us, who was deep into development. And through the years of development, he taught me an immense amount about how to develop property, to the point where now, we're almost up to 4,000 units developed. So we've been doing that, developing 760 units in Gilbert right now. And it's been fun. That to me has always been the joy of this business, because when I walk away, when I retire, or when the good Lord takes me away, that building is still going to be there. And through my efforts, we created it. And fast forward to today, because 60 is the new 40 and I'm still young and active and my mind's still working, I decided I was going to get into the private equity business on is an additional rung of my ladder. And we launched our own net lease fund. Unfortunately, we had the misfortune of launching it in 2022, right about the time the Federal Reserve decided that interest rates should go up and not down. That doesn't do very well for us. So I had to pull that off the table and wait, and not an inexpensive proposition. But a couple years later, last fall, we decided, you know what, I think the Fed has finally peaked, or just about. Now is the time. So we raised our first money, deployed it, bought our first assets, and now we're out in the market trying to raise some more.
That's excellent. Wow, that's a great story. That's a lot of accomplishment in there. I love the aspect of the multi-unit stuff, right? Like you said, the 6 or 1,000, big difference. I don't know why I'm attracted to big things. I just can't help myself. Because it truly seems it's like the same energy involved, but the rewards are polar opposites. Do you know what I mean? You can verify that, but I'm just saying, to me, it always seems that way. Like it's just as much to do the little as it is to do the big.
Yeah, and you know what I would tell people, I tell investors this all the time. You need to start small because everybody needs to get in, and that's how you get in. And look, I've owned, 2, 3, 4 unit buildings that I've bought and sold and turned them into bigger buildings so that I could get away from that. Because when you own 2 or 3 units and, the sink breaks at 9 at night, you get that phone call.
Yeah.
When you own thousands of units and the sink breaks at night, you have people on site who can do that. And now you can focus on the bigger things and the more fun things in the business.
Yeah, it's because it's a business philosophy that I teach all my clients, right? Put the tools down. Okay, we're going to focus on growing the business. You don't have to do the thing, that your business is known for. So once I can get them to let go of that death grip, things really start to change for a business. It's the same principle. You're able to have, you have property managers, you have on-site guys, you have things like that. Now you can delegate, you can expand, you can go look for the next acquisition, if you will, right? And now you start developing, now you're building and doing stuff, which is amazing. And you're right about the legacy aspect, Mike, because you think about, I was in Chicago, I'm living in this apartment building. It had to be 80 or 90 years old, at least.
Sure.
Okay. It's beautiful. I mean, it's, all brick, all this stuff. But I'm like, it's Lincoln Park. It's Chicago. Down there, it's like this thing, that whole area. I loved it because all brownstone and all that. But man, that thing was ancient. I mean, it's unique, right? Because there is this perpetual revenue, from these places. Yeah, it takes money to upkeep and do things like that. But man, it's different than a single family kind of thing,
Yeah, no. And you're home to lots and lots of families, and we recognize that all the time. And when we build, we go to extra lengths to put things into our properties that others might not do, because we know this is their home and we want them to spend their time there. We want them to love to live there, because in the end, that's better for us.
Yeah, you know what? So I lived in Arizona for a bunch of years, moved out there in 82. And then when the Marine Corps came back out, spent some more years there and stuff. But I remember the apartments there because it's newer. I'm air quoting newer, right? It's kind of, but they were really more that community style. Like they were super nice. Of course, you got the pool, you got the cabanas. It was they really did make it to be like a community because, well, it's 115 degrees and no one's going to be outside. So
there's that.
They make that quick dash from the car to the apartment. But it was really spectacular. I was like really enamored by them at my young age. I was like, wow, this is beautiful. And it wasn't like super expensive.
Yeah, it's interesting. Our multifamily portfolio is exclusively in Texas and Arizona, and that's the norm for Texas and Arizona. I think Dallas, 50 some odd percent of the people rent apartments there. Why that is, I can't tell you, but it is. And there's a lot of communities like that. Growing up in Michigan, I don't remember seeing apartments like that.
Right.
I really, I had much the same experience. They were a place to live in a parking lot, and the nice ones had a pool, but that was about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really, I remember young when I was in like, I mean, I don't know. I think it was before even kindergarten or first grade or something, but little 4 unit, little box
Yeah,
apartments, and there was four of those in kind of a square. You drive in the middle, you park in there, then you had these units, and they were maybe they were two, whatever they were, 2 or 4. I don't know, I was like micro small, but I remember those. Right, my grandmother lived in one, we lived in another
sure.
one back in the day, and it was kind. And I remember going to my grandma's place. It was even that was nice. They're
Yeah,
built real
right,
nice,
right.
everything else, but it's once you get outside, they're hideous, kind of. They were nothing worth looking at, right? 4 pitch roof, on top of the thing, and you get up there and you just go, but you're inside like, yeah, this is pretty nice, But that's kind of how we started living. Then we moved into homes and stuff like that. But you're right, you weren't seeing apartments everywhere
No,
like you
no.
do, like you're saying, Arizona, Texas. That's what you see. I was down in South Carolina doing some seminars and have some clients down there driving around. A lot of new apartments. Holy cow, are they building like crazy down there? I mean, the complexes, beautiful
Sure.
stuff. Really, really. But you saw a lot. This was Greenville area. There's a lot. Like I was astounded. But I don't know if that ties into the inability to the the inaffordability of having a home
I,
because
you know, I think it's twofold. I think that is definitely part of the equation, but I also think that, you know, we know for a fact that we're underhoused in this country by, millions of units. We're not talking about thousands of units, millions of units. And I think what has happened is that the population has grown much more quickly than the housing stock. And there's a lot of local and regional reasons for that. But we're finally starting to acknowledge that that's the case. And, I always laugh because any developer will tell you that the surest way to lower rents is to have more apartments be built around you. And because the more supply, the lower the cost. And it's been hard to develop apartments in a lot of places. I think finally we've reached that point where the light bulbs going on, particularly in the last 5 to 7 years, really after COVID, when things just exploded in the housing market and prices in a lot of places went through the roof. People have finally started to say, what's a new family supposed to do? How am I supposed to start a new family if I can't go get a house? I mean, everybody thought they could afford a house, and historically, 2/3 of the population have been able to afford a house. I don't think it's that way anymore. And until we recognize that and keep building more and meeting the demand of the population, we're going to face these issues.
well, I think twofold, like 0809 hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
The housing, everything just it evaporated. Nothing.
Right.
It took 10 years to recover. Like nothing was being built. You talk about
No.
that. I mean, it was. I remember I knew a guy. He was in 15 states, home builder, in 15 states, done. He's like this, and he told me in '09, he's like, oh, it'll be minimum 10 years before this recovers.
Mm.
He's just finished. He like was in doing other stuff now. He's just like
Right.
so.
Right.
So when a guy like that is bailing, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, okay, that was a big indicator. Another thing, Mike, this is interesting. I'd like to get your take on this. 'Cause a friend of mine, so we're talking, I'm going to use this example, downtown Chicago, South Loop. Okay. So you
Mm-hmm.
got city, you got business, but you have apartments, you have condos. So here's the thing. They had kind of a struggle. They had built this huge high rise and they're all condos, but they're $400,000 for a
Right.
condo, right? But they're squeezing out the rentals. So my friend who owned a business there and had for 70 years, his grandfathers and all this stuff, a place called Blackie's. Um, he's like, well, the problem is you have to have the rental for these young people to come in and they rent here first, love the neighborhood, love the convenience, then they'll go to buy. But you have to give them stages to grow into this. A lot of people can't make that leap right into a home, but the renting and the area, we have that here in Beloit where I'm at. There's these cool lofts now they've built and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
bringing these younger and tech guys and they have a place to live here before they actually do the home purchase. So I've kind of watched that too, and I kind of see that's the progression. That's kind of what you have to do, right?
I think there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, in everybody's circumstance is different. Obviously, some have the wherewithal to be able to move into a condo. I mean, I was lucky when I moved out to LA from Michigan. Initially, I had saved enough money to be able to buy a condo right out of that. And with my real estate background, I wanted to own something, and I was
Right.
willing to sacrifice some money that I might have spent on entertainment and other things in order to afford to be in the condo. And it's a trade-off. But for a lot of people, yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. They like to feel out the neighborhood. And, I don't see, and I've never seen condominiums competing with the rental market. I see them working in synergy with each other,
Right.
exactly as you said, that, people get the chance to live in a neighborhood. They get to experience the neighborhood. Then when they've saved the money and they want to buy a home, they can. The question is the rental market providing a product good enough to encourage that? You're seeing a lot of, and the perfect example is you're seeing a lot of build to rent communities now where guys are building anywhere from 6 to 1,400 square foot single family residences, almost like row houses with some
Right.
amenities. But it's getting to the point where somebody can feel like they're in a house. They don't have somebody living over them or under them. They have their own little backyard for their dog, or where the kids can play, and they feel like they can be in a house. That was an answer to that very problem of, look, they can't afford to buy right out of the box, but let's give them something that feels good to them. Let's get them into the neighborhood. And, eventually they're going to go buy something.
Yeah, I see that a lot. Now I don't know if it's my age or what, but my situation is I have one neighbor a half mile to the left and a half mile to the right, no one in front, no one in back. And I feel crowded.
Yeah, right.
So, hey, I can hear his dog barking at night, so because the sound travels. But I'm a little different, whenever I get I kind of get the chills when I go in these neighborhoods. I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't be next. I just can't. I need to, as my saying goes, I have 6 kids. When we got there, whatever, 16 years ago, I'm like, listen, we can shoot off the back porch and pee off the front. We're good to go. This is heaven.
And
Okay,
nobody will know.
that's right. This is heaven. We've
Yep.
arrived. So for me, that was the thing. But everybody's different. I mean, a lot of people need. My wife's very much an extrovert,
Yeah.
Chicago girl, born and raised in the city. So, that transition was a little rough, Mike. It was
When
when
you have
all
to
green
drive to your
acres on her,
neighbor's house. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, everything's in a car. The
Yeah.
closest thing is 7 miles away. Just to get gas. So it's good. But I'm just,
Yeah.
there's something for everybody. I think that's the
Sure.
beautiful thing. It's really those choices you make. But so for you, what's the future? A lot of things have shifted economically, demographically. There's a lot of moving happening. A lot of moving happening these last 5 years. A lot of
Yeah.
people were leaving from here to there and this state to that state, free states to not so free states and whatever you want to call them. But really interesting that. And one point on that, I was speaking with a gentleman. He would do research and prospects. He'd make prospectuses for power plants. So they track power. It's really fascinating. So where's the energy going to build the next plant? Like millions, like you're talking just COVID, post-COVID, like everything was moving. He's showing me this stuff. I go, okay, I never even thought about that. Like, talk about an indicator where to go next. Like the power grid.
Yeah, no, it will lead you to it will lead you to where development's going to be happening for sure. And now it's gotten even more confused with all the data centers and the other things that,
Right.
the power needs that we have will tell you where the economic growth is going to be. We look at it two ways. I mean, we started is on the multifamily side, the family office, we started in California. And when I got there, we started to move into Texas. And that was in the days, the late 80s, early 90s, when you could shoot a cannon through Texas and not hit
Yeah.
anything. And people don't remember that Texas used to be this sleepy old state down in the South with, a little oil going on and not a whole lot else. And, it's transformed itself. But we kind of saw the beginnings of things happening there, and we wanted to be involved, and we're heavily in Dallas and San Antonio, a little bit in Austin. We've been in and out of Austin over the years. And the same thing happened to us with Arizona, where we started moving into Arizona. We liked what was happening there. And this is even before, the COVID shift, which has really accelerated a lot of these patterns.
Mm-hmm.
So we would look at things like that. And, I remember being on there's a small call with a bunch of investors. One of our vendors was putting it on. I think it was one of the banks. And we're sitting around and they're all lamenting most of them were in California, and they were lamenting all of the rent paying issues through COVID and whatnot. And they said, well, Mike, what about you? And I was sort of sheepish. And I said, well, in Texas and Arizona, the residents actually believe that when they sign a lease, they're supposed to pay. And, we don't really have a collection. We have a little collection problem, but those tenants come to us and we work with them. And everybody understood there were issues during COVID. So we don't want you to move out. Let's figure out how we can keep you in your unit and make things work. But it was a different mentality. I have the same thing with our net lease fund that we're raising money for now. We're buying across the Southwest and Southeast up through the central Midwest and the mountain, basically staying out of the West Coast and staying out of the Northeast. I could go into details about why, but I think most people can figure that out. But for us,
we all know.
Yeah, exactly. For us, it's really more about, if I'm buying a single tenant net lease store, an Amazon resistant business, 7-Eleven, Dollar General, O'Reilly Auto, I want growing population. I want places with a good business climate. I want to know that store's, I can protect myself 8 ways to Sunday, and I do, but I still want to know that business is going to survive there, because I don't want to have to worry about having a dark store or any of that thing. So we look at the metrics, and those are the places where people are moving. I mean, you don't have to do very in-depth research to figure that out. It's on the front page of the newspaper all the time.
Yeah, but I think a key, like you're saying, is kind of knowing your research, understanding these markets. I remember, 82 in Arizona, right? We're Fountain Hills, above Scottsdale there.
Yeah. Yep.
There's like 800 people in that town. My friend's dad built that place to a real estate. He was the one, and my buddy ended up being the mayor eventually, one of my friends. And it's just to watch it grow. My dad ran the golf course there. Then he did Palos Verde, Rio Verde down the road, did that. Then he went Flagstaff. So I watched it grow over the years. I lived in Tucson for a few years. Cowtown. You're talking Cowtown. I mean, a little smelled as you came in like a big cow farm, but to watch it grow now, it's amazing. Just the sprawl. I mean, Phoenix, forget it. I mean, the whole Phoenix Valley is just, my whole family still lives out there, and it's wild.
Well, I laugh. I think the town is surprised. I think they call it surprise because they were surprised that anybody would ever build there. And now it's, mainstream.
My grandfather, Mike, okay, he was a Lapidor, right? Became a Lapidor, so he polished rocks down in Gleason, Arizona. So you're down Sierra Vista, all that stuff. He had a gold mine, had a horse. He lived in Gleason. They had like a general store and a saloon. literally, I don't think there's 25 people there. And he'd go out, had the 6-shooter on his hip, hair down to his belt, climbing down, like finding gold dust and rocks, going to swap meets. I mean, he was a character, right? But you
Yeah.
could do that there. It's just like
Oh,
he
sure.
just
No,
lived. He just he started as a snowbird from kind of up here, Chicago and back and forth.
yeah.
Then he did permanent. But it just I remember that like this is some crazy old bird here. I got a
Right.
gold miner in the family. Like he's caving, he's doing all kinds of stuff. But that's what the Wild West was still. He can
Sure.
literally do that stuff. It's crazy when you think about just the shift of demographics and where population goes and where they decide to live and grow
Oh,
this
no,
community.
no question. I mean, everybody's always guessing and trying to figure it out. And, I always think of kids growing up today, are they going to miss entirely the experiences that you and I had,
Yeah.
growing up and having, wide areas to go? I mean, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, there were lots of wide places you could go to just be out away from people.
Yeah.
And it's getting harder and harder.
Yeah, it was. Well, I'm happy. It was good. Even my kids, we kind of raised them also. I've got 6 kids and they got the outdoor experience.
Right.
That's where they played outside. One of my sons in the Marine Corps, he talks about that. Yeah, we had a lot of sticks. We played with a lot of sticks. We did something. That's what we did.
And be home when the street lights came on.
That's right. We don't have any street lights, so they never came home. No, but yeah, it is really interesting. Just again, from what people experience now, and I've noticed, and this is kind of an odd pivot I'm going to take here, but there's that urban mindset. You got kind of a suburban mindset. And of course you got your, I'll call it country, your kind of open space mindset. And it's really unusual. A quick story. So I had a business partner up here in Wisconsin. We had a gym together and stuff. We're building this, doing all this stuff. And we were going to go promote a big race we were having. So I took him to Chicago. It's an hour and 20 away. Right. So we go there. You had to be there. Like his eyes,
Yeah.
we're in his truck, and like saucer big. He's like, what do all these people do? He's seeing like parking lots of grocery stores full, middle of the day. Such the people
Right.
everywhere all day. He's like, what do they do? I go, well, their husbands are working and they're spending their money. That's I go, there's a lot of people here. He goes, he's like shaking. He's like, I could never. He calls them townies, I mean, if there's like a town, I mean, he's out on 2,000 acres, living on 2,000 acres.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just it was hilarious. We spent a whole day driving around, and that's where I used to live, Even
Right,
now I kind of
right.
get that, right? But so there's that. It's just amazing where people would like never even go to a place like that. You know what I mean? And then
Sure.
at the same time, you've got people who are flocking to that.
Different strokes for different folks. I mean,
Mhm.
everybody has their thing, and sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of both, or all
Yeah.
three, where you
Well,
can be among people, but get away when you want to.
well, that's why I'm in like the perfect spot because my wife can go
Yeah.
to Chicago whenever she wants. She can go to Milwaukee. She can go to Madison. Have all
Sure.
the people she can get her fill of. Okay. And then come back home and shoot off the back porch.
Yep.
Okay.
There you go.
It's a good thing, but you're right. But I guess the overall point is, man, there is opportunity everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, you have to look for it.
Mhm.
It's not going to just fall into your lap ever. I worry about, and I have 2 boys who are at the tail end of this generation coming up, that I wonder how this country's going to survive with them because they don't seem to be all that motivated. And, I laugh because I see some who are, and I go, you guys are going to rule the world.
Yep.
Because if you've got motivation and you're in that age bracket, but the opportunities are out there. You just have to be willing to take the chance. You can't, not everybody's going to start big. Most people are going to start small.
Right.
But when you put one foot in front of the other,
Yeah,
you're going to get there.
Yeah, my first business coming out of the Marine Corps was literally a wheelbarrow and a shovel. I shoveled gravel
Yeah.
all day. But man, I remember I did it one time, 35 tons down in Arizona and Tucson, 115, little side job. I shoveled 35 tons of granite, rolled to the backyard, spread it, got done, and that man put $1,000 in my hand. I was working for $5 an hour, digging
Right.
trench all day, swinging a pickaxe
Right.
all day, putting in cable. And I'm like, I did this yesterday for $45. I just
Yeah.
got paid 1,000. I know my future, and that launched my business. I have never looked back.
Yeah. No, 100%. I go, honestly, one of the things that I'm happiest about right now is that the conversation about trade schools has gotten more
Mm, yep.
mainstream. And I've said this for a while, and part of it is, yeah, I've swung a hammer in my
Mhm.
life. I've dug ditches, I've worked on golf, I've done a lot of different things. And people always undersold those jobs
Yep.
as though college education was the be all and end all for everybody. And now we start to see that, well, I mean, if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or you want to learn finance or engineering, yeah, you do need to go to college, but there's a great many things that you can learn and make a really, really good living. I mean, I go into our apartment complexes and I swear to you, I don't know how the electricians wire those buildings, because you look and there's wires running everywhere like spaghetti, and how it ultimately all gets to where it needs to go. Those guys are
Right.
geniuses.
Yep.
And,
It,
you get to see it up front and close doing what I do. And I hope more kids will look at that and say, you know what, I can make a really good living being a plumber or an electrician or a carpenter or all the other things that we need so desperately in this country.
yeah, I have a saying. I said the blue collar is going to be the new white collar. They're going to be the new wealthy. Okay. My clients were a lot of construction guys, trades guys,
Yep.
all that stuff, right? I'm like, I am preparing them for that scale, right?
Sure.
Because they can do what they do. Yeah, they need more people, but the business part has to be prepared to take ground. So we focus on that. So like you'll be able to get more people, but like, is your business prepared to scale? Right, from a
Right.
business standpoint. So we do that because yeah, the demand is unbelievable. And there is a big push for the trade schools here, especially in Beloit. It's a big center here. We got to think about career tech. I mean, the trade thing is a big deal, right? So
Yeah.
they teach kids early. You come in, get these classes, and you can do carpentry, you can do masonry, you can just test it. They do paid internships with the high school kids coming through, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm not going to be a mason." They go do that for 2, 3 months, and like,
Yeah.
okay,
Right.
maybe that's not for me, but that's what they want. No, you don't want to do it before you get locked in.
I saw a story which was right on that point. There's a high school, and I wish I remember where it was, but they built a 12 or $15,000 or foot warehouse, and they brought all of the equipment in there, like the old shop classes,
Yep.
but learn how to cut sheet metal, learn how to do this, learn how to do that, and kids were taking the classes and learning the skills in high school. So
Like
when
we
they
did.
graduated from high school, yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. I have a client down in a couple of clients down in Texas. Same thing. He's got, matter of fact, my client, he's a real high end custom home builder down there, but he was a teacher and he still goes and they build like tiny houses it's the project. They do
right.
the whole thing. And some of these are like a little bigger, like they're almost 45 feet long, and they got like 8 and 10. So they're still in the tiny
Right.
house category. You can still like a mobile home kind of thing, but they build the whole thing from scratch. So these kids are getting all that experience and the whole thing. Really, like that kind of stuff is pretty genius to
Yeah.
get them out. You're not building this massive porn foot or all, but it's really, really fascinating. The opportunities are there. It
Yeah.
really
Well,
is.
you do that, you get a sense of accomplishment
Yeah.
because you can finish something.
You know what else, Mike, is there's another guy from my area here, had started the program about 10 years ago called Craftsman with Character.
Mm,
So you'd come in and every week, like every Friday, you'd go to a local business, and you spend like half a day there. And they would take you through every week a different aspect of the business. So you had to sit, spend 2 hours, 3 hours working sales, and then you're working here. And then you came back to the school and you talked about it and discussed and everything else. But you really wanted to get these people acquainted with manufacturing, with building, all this stuff. So doing that for like 10 years. Really cool program. Really, and then just I think a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, the Navy got wind of it and dumped millions into it. Said, we want this. Like we need people
yeah.
who can do things. Okay. So they really, and it's a really cool program.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Fantastic idea.
Yeah. So they want to expand across the country now with that, so they're putting the money behind that, and it's, so one of my clients is a manufacturer, a number of them. And I said, why aren't we doing this with your employees? Why aren't they each once a week spend 2 hours in sales, 2 hours in that, walk through so they understand this whole business and what they're actually a part of? And he's like, that's a great idea. Guess what he does now? Everybody, everyone's going through. Now they don't have this sense of, I work the CNC machine and that's it. You know what I mean? It's like they when they see the sales guys,
the whole program. Yep.
Exactly. They know what they're going through, and they also might decide that's where I want to be. Man, I'd be good at that, because they didn't even know it existed.
You know what? It opens up the opportunity for somebody to say, well, if I knew that this was going there, here's a better way to do this.
Exactly.
Because, it'll make that part easier.
Yep. That's it. It's amazing when you, and we all get very siloed in business in general, and we kind of get our thing. And that's when, like, I come into companies and I can see a lot because I'm not attached to anything. I don't have any emotion in this. I'm just coming in and like, well, why aren't they doing this or that? It's the same principle, right? But if you can do that and have that rotation inside, again, it's just learning. It's a 2 hour a week. It's an incredible investment, and you can rotate everyone else and do that. But when people, because there's some people who actually are like skilled with their hands, they don't know it. You know how you all of a sudden you do something and go, man, I'm really good at this. Like playing an instrument. Some people can sit down and play. Like, oh, you're really good at that. Oh, who knew? They didn't even know, until they try the thing. So I just think that kind of exposure is really important for these younger generations. They go get dirty, get their hands on it, do it, see what's actually out there. And real estate's no different, right? It's not like you got to be swinging a hammer. I was like, I couldn't do real estate. Okay. Yeah. It's just, it doesn't work for me. I mean, you know what I mean? The process. I don't, there's just something about it I don't like. Okay.
I was listening to somebody the other day, and they were talking about their career path, and they had gone from entry-level job up to the CEO's office and working through all the jobs. And one of the things she said was that you almost learn more about what you want to do from the jobs that you do and the experiences you have that you don't like.
That's right.
Because you figure out where you don't want to be, but you also get exposure to things that you do like, and your career path becomes a lot more focused that way.
Yeah, I've always been a big believer in, as long as you know what you don't want to do, the other choices are less and they're easier to make. Okay, too many choices. You go to California Pizza Kitchen and there's 175 choices. You just stand there mesmerized at the menu, right? You know what to do. If you go in and there's 5 choices, you can make a decision pretty quick, right? So it's an old sales technique. Give them 3, throw away 1, and choose from 2. It's easy. But no, you're exactly right. And I think what I would do, like with a lot of kids when they ask me, because I do a lot of business, like, well, how do I succeed? And I said, it's really simple. I'm gonna give you 2 things to do. Okay. I said, you're gonna show up early and you're gonna ask, what else can I do? If you'll do those 2 things, you'll be the CEO before you know it. Okay. Yeah. Because nobody does. Nobody does either one of those. Okay. Yeah. So it's not a complicated process out there. It really isn't.
Very, very, very much so. No, I agree 100%. And the other one I would toss in there is listen a lot more than you speak.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a life lesson in general, not just work. Yeah.
That 80-20 rule actually does work.
Yeah, it does. That's for sure. So that's awesome. So yeah, it's really as I watch this, because again, I've raised 6 kids. They're all now upper teens, early 20s, and they're doing their thing. And I've watched them as I've raised them. We were fortunate to homeschool them the whole way through. So again, they've got kind of a different exposure and everything else, but they're all thriving in jobs. They're not at their end job. One's in the Marine Corps doing awesome. Other ones are working in different areas, but they're making great money. I always tell them, I have 2 18-year-old twins. And one of them, he's been working since he was like 9. The kid just loves to
Mhm.
work. Okay. But from 16, his 16th birthday to his 18th birthday, Mike, the kid made 90 grand.
Wow.
Okay.
That's
And
impressive.
I'm like 90, I didn't make 900 in those 2 years when I was a kid,
Right.
and I was kind of working a little bit. I didn't want to laugh, but I looked at it and go, that's unbelievable. And all my kids working and making, I'm like, you guys don't understand like what a big deal this is. Like it becomes kind of a norm because they work. They've been taught to
Yeah,
work and they go to work and they do work and they've got money and they save money or they don't save money or they buy things or whatever. But you look at that, I'm like, you know what's great about you? You're never going to starve
that's right.
because you guys know how to work and you're not afraid to do things. It's
Yeah.
huge.
I worry for this generation, and part of that's institutionalized, that it's not as easy as when we were growing up to get jobs. I mean, you got
Right.
to, for young kids to be able to get out and experience working and doing it. I mean, I had 2 jobs in high school. My parents had plenty of money. It had nothing to do with that.
Yep. Yep.
I didn't want to have to ever ask them for money. I wanted to have
Right.
my own.
Right.
Um, but I don't know if that those situations exist anymore for a lot of kids. I mean, you really have to get yourself out there, and the laws have changed, and we've made it much more difficult, which I think is a tragedy. I mean, kids working really teaches them that mentality.
Here's a here's a little story. So my son, the other twin, not the 18-year-old, but the other one was working at a
Yep.
company, a manufacturing company, right across the Illinois border. So he's in Illinois there, and worked for a guy I know, he's working in the shipping department. So he's boxing stuff
Hmm.
up and shipping it, and they make cabinets. So there's a whole huge shop out there, 40 people, and then he comes home one day, and the owner calls me, and he goes, Richard, I had to send Xavier home. He goes, nothing bad, nothing wrong. I go, what's up? He goes, well, there's this law that was brought to our attention that where there's
Oh boy.
saws and things like that, like you can't be around unless a parent's with you next to you or they have a constant supervisor next to them. I go, he's in shipping in another room. He goes, yes, I know. It doesn't matter. I said, he goes, let me send you the sheet. So he sends the whatever the ordinance is. There's 3 exceptions, Mike. Okay. There's 3 exceptions for this rule, and you're gonna love this. Okay. The first one is if you're doing, let me see if I can remember what it was. Construction. That's one. So if you're doing construction, you can be because they don't use saws in construction. Okay.
No,
So
no, it's a lot
so
safer.
so you're walking on rafters. Okay, so 25 feet in the air. But okay, so that one's out. What was it? There was that one, and then there was construction. I'm trying to think of. There's only 3. There's another one. Oh, logging. Logging. Okay, you could do logging as a minor. Okay, and that's okay because there's no danger in that at all. Okay,
Wow.
and here's the best one. You know what the third one was?
I can't
Mi-
even guess what those first two.
Mining. You could be a miner down in the dark hole, breathing carbon
Oh
dioxide.
my
I'm like, only the government can come up with this stuff. And I'm like, look at this. Let's go. You got to be kidding me.
And you wonder why I no longer practice law or want anything to do with the
Right.
way these people do these things.
Right. And I'm
That's
like, but,
that's
but,
nuts.
but I'm like, here's a kid working, and he was making like $18 an hour with a chance to make 20 as at 16 and a half years old. Like he
Yeah.
working like full time doing the thing, man. It was great. Now he can't. Now he had to go work at the car wash. You know what I mean? At Culver's. He did that for a year and a half, then went to when he was 14, he worked there. And then, of course, they limit your hours because you're not old
Right.
enough.
Sure.
Okay, give him
Right.
18 hours a week, whatever. But then he went over there like, oh man, he's all keyed up. But then he gets the out because of he'd be better off being a logger. so,
Uh,
so, so then he
that
goes to
that
the
is
car wash.
great.
Does that, but now he's 18, and guess where he's back at? And he's working on the
Different.
floor, making even more money. Went back because they called him, said, "You're 18
Yeah.
now, come back," because they loved him.
Right.
Like he's a great
Right.
worker, so like he's back there now. It's all good, but it's just funny what the obstacles and the hurdles they put in the way of people who actually want to work.
Yeah.
When you're young,
It,
like
it,
you need to encourage that. Oh my goodness, that's like the most important thing.
it's so amazing to me that people in government, and a lot of them really haven't had real jobs, so they don't
Mm-hmm.
understand this thing, that how many obstacles they do put in people's way that make absolutely no sense. I I had read something that John McGovern, who was as liberal as they come when he was a senator and running for president, bought a hotel after he got out of politics. And he said, if I had known then what I know now about running a business, he goes, I would have approached this very differently.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's okay. Okay. I'll give you one more funny story. So you got, wasn't it Jim Ryan? Wasn't he Speaker of the House? Jim Ryan, right? Is it Jim Ryan?
Tim Ryan. No, not Tim Ryan. he's the Anaheim Ducks president. Paul Ryan.
Yeah, Paul Ryan. That's it. Okay. Anyway, so
20 years. He's in Wisconsin.
Yeah, he lives right in Janesville, right up the road, right?
Yeah.
So we have these track meets, right? And he's got kids, and I got kids. My kids we have a homeschool team, so we're hated by all the public schools because we win all the time.
Right.
And I coach on the team and stuff. So we're there, and he's always there with his kids, and like, you want to have a conversation, but he doesn't really want to talk anything about anything because, he's there and he's got 6 black Suburbans and all his little guys watching and everything. But then he's helping out one day. He's like flipping burgers at the little concession stand. And I just had to I had to do this, Mike. I said, preparing for the private sector. Because that's all you're qualified for. So he just kind of gave me the look, and I just kept walking. But I like to see him flipping burgers because that's about what he's qualified for. So, anyways, not a fan of that guy. But
funny. And
then we crushed him, and we took the whole tournament. So,
well, there you go.
There you go. That was the real victory. But yeah, it's a fascinating thing. The whole work, not just ethic, but the ethos of working. Yeah. I think the work ethos has been evaporated. I don't know how. There's a number of reasons why it's been that life has been sucked out of people. The value of it. Do you know what I mean?
And it's the entry into other things. I mean, my grandfather was a butcher. When he passed away, his supermarket chain had 112 stores. He had bootstrapped himself up in working his way up through the business to being a business person.
Right.
And, now kids, you just don't get that experience. You're 100% right. And, I think we're starting to feel that. And, the president talks about all these manufacturing jobs coming back. The first thought that goes into my head is who's going to work at them? Or are they going to be run by robots?
Well, I have a whole thing on speaking of manufacturing. I just came out with a book called Sharpen the Spear. It's lead from the front, a battle plan for turning teams into top performers. I'm all about frontline leadership, and I'm focused on the manufacturing industry.
Sure.
Because there's 5 generations working together right now.
Yeah.
That's herding cats. Okay. Yeah. And they can't communicate. It's a mess. These younger guys, they couldn't lead you to lunch. Okay. I mean, so I'm like, this is my thing. This is where I can make a difference. I'm going to go in. I'm going to train. I'm going to get these guys dialed in. I'm going to show massive ROI for the companies. I can show them all the gaps in there and leadership and everything else there. Begin there at the front because that's where it happens, right? Again, back to the blue collar thing. There's a lot I can do, and I'm having great success with this and really enjoying it. I'm putting these programs and getting these guys really dialed in because that's, like you said earlier, that's where the real story comes from. What's really going on in the business? Go to the front line.
Yeah.
Let's go to the core. Same thing. You don't ask the general. You go talk to the private, the lance corporal, the corporal. Okay. That's where you're going to get this is what's really happening. Right. So I have the same philosophy, right? So I go to the floor and I interview different people. It's really cool. I got this whole diagnostic I use. And so the plant manager, you got a lead, you got a supervisor, shift supervisor, blah, blah, safety. And I ask them all the same questions and it tabulates everything. And you see the real disparity. They think it's all 5s. They're saying it's all 2s.
Yeah.
Where's
the problem here?
Well, it's really, but then you get this like, boom, right there. You get this. I spent 3 hours there. They have this snapshot of like, oh, no one's communicating. No one's really getting this. It's fascinating. So I've taken all this, like we're talking about, and I want to do something about it. So I did that, right? So I'm like, now I can go and actually make a difference and change because I want manufacturing to come back. But if we can't produce, what's the point?
Right. Right. No.
People have to make money. Companies
Yeah.
gotta, they need an ROI on this stuff. So I don't know, we're all over the map here, but just,
Yeah.
this stuff is, but that kind of all goes back to opportunity. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like we talked about, whether it's real estate or you want to do another business. And like you said about your grandfather, a lot of people, most small businesses are starting because someone has a skill, a craft, they can do something well, and they start a business. That's what I did. I could
Yeah.
shovel, then I could build water features, and I could do steel sculpture, and I became world class. But I'm like, and I made lots of money, but I didn't know anything about business. I thought business was making money. Only.
Right.
I didn't know all the other.
There's
So
that thing about a product in there that there's
that's
some
right.
skill that was
Yes,
required, but
exactly. So I'm just, but I did it really well for 20 years until I didn't. Okay.
right.
And then '09 came and said, look, you forgot all this. If you had done
Yeah.
this, you might. So it's just, I can laugh about it now. It wasn't a lot of fun then, but it's just, but I think a lot of people have to kind of grasp onto the entrepreneurial mindset again, because there used to be 70% in this country were entrepreneurs in one way or another.
Right. Right.
Now we're like 30-ish%, 35, 32, something like that. So, and again, some was agrarian and whatever, but for the most part, it's like, it's not encouraged for one.
Right.
Okay. You got a very small percentage of people who actually will take that risk and go out and do that stuff, because everyone's been trained to kind of be that cog, if you will,
Yeah.
right? And go play
It's
that,
easier.
that piece. Yeah, it is. And, even from, we'll go back to real estate, as a self-employed individual, when I'm buying a house, okay, like you talk about going through the ringer. Like they
Hmm.
beat you up 9 ways a Sunday. You got double the down. Everything is like more and longer. I'm like, but I like own a business. No one has better incentive than me to succeed. I mean, if I
Right.
have a job for someone, you come and blow me through and give me a $400,000 house, and like I could be fired the next day. I could be on the
Right.
street.
Right.
I have investments, I have assets, I have all this. And it's just, I always found that ironic. I'm just kind of sitting in the process going, this is just the most backwards thing there is, you know?
Well, I could spend hours talking about the deficiencies of lenders and the way they look at the world, but
Yeah, I know that's we
it's a
put
whole
everyone to
nother
sleep.
subject.
Yes, it's
Right.
the only people
Right.
interested to be you and I. Okay.
Right.
That'd be it. But that's okay. Well, Mike, honestly, man, what a conversation. We didn't really have a plan, and but it's beautiful. I love what you
Absolutely. No, it's
do.
been fun.
Yeah, I love what you do. I always had an interest in the multi-unit stuff and everything else. Again, I'm not the guy to do real estate, the whole thing. That's
Yeah.
it. But I love it as like an investment vehicle.
Sure.
I mean, there's so much upside. One of my sons is like, he's been about that since he was little. He's all into, he wants to be financially independent by the time he's 24. He's just about to turn 20 on his own. He's buying this and he buys this too. Then moves out of that. I'm like, the kids had the plan forever.
It's
And
good
I'm
to
like,
have a plan for sure.
yeah, and I'm like, you do it now. You do it at 18 and 19 when you have no overhead. Financial independence is pretty close. Okay.
And you know what? The risk of failure is a lot lower back then when you're
Yep.
that young.
Yep, that's right. I'm just like, you can do it. And like, man, 5 years may seem like a lot when you're 18, but that is a blink of an eye. Okay, that's tomorrow. 5 years to us is tomorrow. I'm
Right.
like, and you can reach that, and that only gets better. Once you reach that point, it just keeps getting better. You just stay in the same trajectory. So I love to see it. All my kids do things in different ways, and they're all reaching their own point of success. So my point is, there's just tons of opportunity out there. Just find your path, and you can
Yeah.
make things happen.
Absolutely. Well, clearly you did something right if they're all doing that.
Yeah, it's cool to see. I didn't do everything right, but that got that part.
And that might be the most important thing we do.
It might is going to set them up. So the other stuff I can ask forgiveness. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But I got them dialed in. So, Mike, how can people follow you, get in touch, anything like that? I know you're here sharing great stuff. So, what do you got for everybody?
Absolutely. If they want to hear more about what we're doing on the private equity side, you can reach out to me directly at mike@guardian-advisory.com. I'm happy to talk to people. I'm always even happy to jump on people who want a little more information. I feel like when you reach a certain age, giving back is important.
Yep.
And if people want to understand about investing in real estate and doing those kinds of things, happy to jump on a call with them.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate that very much. And I appreciate your time today, Mike, man. You're a great guest. I had a blast talking with you, and man, just looking forward to the future. I'm a future guy.
Absolutely.
There's so much out there. I want people to just always be reminded of that. There's opportunity everywhere. Doesn't matter, just the old saying.
Just go get it.
That's right. There's more millionaires made during the Great Depression than any other time in history. So it doesn't matter
Very
what's going
true.
on in the economy, man. The opportunity is there. Make it happen. You just got to, I'm going to use a 4-letter word, work. You got to work.
Not a dirty word either.
That's right. It's a good one. Embrace it. So awesome, Mike. Thank you again. And for everybody else, we'll see you on the next STS podcast. Thanks for joining me on the Sharpen the Spear podcast. If you're a manufacturing executive and you're serious about unlocking hidden profit, improving frontline leadership, and taking control of your floor, go to grit2lead.com right now. Run the free Sharpened Impact Simulator and discover your biggest opportunities are hiding. Don't leave millions on the table. Sharpen your spear, lead from the front, and win the floor. Until next time, stay sharp.